Do you use voice assistants?
Do I need to tell the truth? I have a guilty pleasure here. And I am a fan of a certain device that you can talk to and it talks back. I think I'm careful in the way I use it. I have my room where I listen to music. Something that I'm very careful about not allowing into other parts of my home. I think that the idea of an always-on mic is something that is risky. At the other side of the spectrum, there is also a huge convenience factor when you're unwinding at the end of the day and you just want to play that song and not think about interacting with a physical like keyboard or mouse or phone. So I'm a bit opinionated on this, and in that if you can mitigate that space and soundproof it, and maybe it's okay, because it's a form of progress, but also a regression in terms of your privacy and your online profile.
I was using a lot of Samsung phones, and I always wanted the Google software to have that native Android experience. And it came with I think they were called it like Google Now or something. And I used it all the time. I have to admit, it's so nice.
But you know what's scary is when you go to the menu and you check playback my recordings.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
That's actually when I realized that this is picking up stuff from my house. And I actually limited the number of devices I use because of that. Like, I've had a phone conversation. I've had an argument I was having with a parent. And I've heard snippets of that in those voice recordings. And I just thought, this doesn't need to be on the internet. This doesn't need to be on an Amazon data center. That's why I cut down on my usage.
And I believe that there are conversations that I had, with, again, similar to you, like my parents, that there are on data centers, which is baffling. But on the other hand, another thing I'll mention is that I use the voice typer keyboard.
This is probably a bigger risk than even voice assistants, because the stuff that you're writing is probably important.
Oh, yeah.
And it has to be recorded to be transcripted. I mean, what is going on here? If you remember 10, 15 years ago, there was a lot of research on actually doing voice recognition on your computer. Yeah. I remember kind of having a lot of fun with this. There was this Microsoft Research prototype, and you could very slowly read individual words, and sometimes they would even come out right. But that was happening on your own computer, right?
Yeah.
And now that's all gone. Everything is in the cloud, right?
Yeah, I can actually give you a live demo here. But here's a live demo. So essentially what you do is you click a button on your keyboard, which is like a microphone. And I will now talk as if I'm talking with you, and look at how it picks up everything very super correctly. It's quite it's quite scary, actually. And yeah, it will basically transcribe the whole thing.
Yeah, and this is a revolution in the last few years. This is machine learning.
Yeah.
It used to take, they used to be programming these models into the code one by one. Engineers were kind of modeling each word and how you pronounce it. And then, a Scottish version, an American version, English version, Welsh version, whatever. And now they just feed loads of data sets into this big AI. But the downside of that is that the big AI is in the cloud. So what you're just doing is sending an MP3 or a WAV file to the cloud. And that's no longer your text, it's no longer your recording, it's right there. In theory, anyone can listen to it, and it may be there for a very long time.
Yeah, and but again, it's so convenient because sometimes, again, using, just typing like this, it's not, again, something for the phone manufacturers to consider. We're moving to bigger phones now. So
there is hope that some of this will move to the chipset. So, you have now AI chips in the new generation of the Google's phone and also Apple's phone. So
the tensor chip, I believe.
Exactly. Yeah. And with that, in theory, it's not going to be as good as the cloud transcription, but it might be coming back. And I imagine Apple might want to push this first, just because they've been kind of trying to change things with cloud, trying to maybe nudge Google to collect less data. So that might be a next step that we see. There's already some really good AI happening when it comes to image recognition. That's happening on your phone. It's not actually uploading those images. It can read now the text. It can find the phone numbers in there. It can even say that's a picture of a cat, or maybe it's a dog or something in between. So it's happening slowly.